Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
We're putting up new buildings, we're knocking down the old. We're working in the summer heat and in the winter cold. And the labour power we sell, me boys, for a hard-earned weekly pay produces mighty profits for the greedy MBA. And whether we were born here or born in Italy, in Greece, in Spain or Ireland, in England or Fiji, we all of us are workers, united we must stand, until the wealthy bludgers have been driven from our land. We faced deregistration, it backfired in the face. We're not fooled by arbitration, we won't stay in our place. We hit the bosses hard and fast to win and keep our gains, and break a couple of concrete pours to back our log of claims. So keep your powder dry and hold your head up high. It's class to class and face to face, our limit is the sky. We've got a fighting history and we never will be cowed. Our builders' labour is a name to make a man feel proud.
And it is indeed good morning from the Concrete Gang, as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as you can be in spring, with hay fever becoming prevalent and hot and cold conditions changing on a daily basis. If you can have 4 seasons in one day in Melbourne, you can have 8 during spring. Good morning, Colin.
Good morning, Warren. Absolutely correct. An absolutely beautiful week for most of the week, and back to winter.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. And we have a new chum with us this morning with a list of absentees, which is unbelievable, but we won't dwell on that. We're welcoming aboard young Malcolm.
Good morning, how are we all?
And Malcolm's looking after the panel for us, and we are going to continue with the show regardless of absentees. String Beans decided he's off doing something which is terribly important, and other people can't get out of bed, and so it goes. But never mind, let's talk about the week that was. And I think the first thing we need to talk about is the big rally during the week in support of the sacked workers at CUB in Abbotsford. Big day out. Big
day out. Big day out last Thursday. Scabby the Rat in attendance, fantastic, and there was some brilliant speeches down there at AFL House. I got to say, I cheated a bit. I called a cab from the office down to AFL House with a few others, and what a great march it was through the streets there, through Etihad, up through Southern Cross Station, and then on to Parliament House, where there was a few more speeches, and good to see a few politicians on board, a few people, a few pollies starting to get on board this CUB 55. About time too, I have to say. 12 weeks. It's been a long time. Too long, some might say. But anyway, a fantastic day out, and couldn't have asked for a better day, weather-wise.
Indeed. And so some people enjoyed it so much that when I went to a meeting at the end of the day up at the Spring Street end of town, they were still in a certain establishment on the corner.
Still convivialising, were they? I think that's the word. Convivialising they were. Yes,
indeed,
I saw.
But not with the Carlton United product.
No, there was plenty of high-vis vests seen through tinted windows in particular establishments on Thursday afternoon. Late.
Yes, at lunchtime they were just sitting in the streets. Anyway, to be serious about it, this is a matter that has gone on far too long. It demonstrates yet again the flaws in the Fair Work Act. There are rorts going on everywhere, whether it's 7-Eleven, McDonald's, whatever is apparently okay under the Fair Work Act is now found to be flawed seriously. And at the same time, there are all these other, shall we say, stratagems that the employers can follow which allow them to get out of their responsibilities. And, of course, on Friday morning, spokesperson for CUB said, well, they're not our employees. It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah, typical.
We just got rid of the previous subcontractor who actually took over those blokes from the direct employees of Carlton United in the old days.
That's right. That's right. They were direct employees, maintenance workers. Were sacked, but the subcontractor that took over at the time employed the blokes on the same terms and conditions, yes. And now it's come up for renewal again, and they've said no, you're not going to do it. But we had some great news though. We've reported it last week. Our friends at Skilled, because that's who they really are, walked away from the contract. So now we're just waiting for the brewery to do the right thing and re-employ those blokes on the same terms and conditions. But you're right, the Fair Work Commission, the EBA that they were to go back in on, if they did go back, was voted on by a couple of blokes up in Queensland who'd never been in the game before. There's something seriously wrong when that can happen.
And it does happen on a pretty regular basis, as well as all the other rorts that go on. And we'll deal with a couple more during the show, because there's lots of people out there burning companies, phoenixing companies, and trying to avoid their financial and moral obligations. But never mind, we'll come to that. But one thing that should be said, Colin, you mentioned politicians suddenly appearing.
Yes.
Methinks that, being absolutely cynical about them, there must be a media opportunity coming up.
Indeed.
Because clearly there is now talk of a Senate inquiry into CUB and all the problems with employment not being protected by the Fair Work Act. That just sounds like an opportunity for some politicians to parade themselves around.
Indeed, because I believe there's going to be a few prominent ones turning up shortly to the brewery for a bit of a chat with the boys. So that does... opportunity does seem to be appearing.
Yes, indeed. And I might, just as an afterthought, suggest that maybe some of those people were actually in Parliament, the federal Parliament, when the Fair Work Act was introduced, and it was criticised at the time, but I know it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
The bread got toasted. In fact, it got over-toasted. But never mind. Thanks, Julia. Yet again, thanks Julia, thanks Bill, the Fair Work Act is not a decent piece of legislation. The bosses hate it, but they hate it for the few things they did give unions, and I think unions don't like it because basically you've got a situation where in some state which has a group of casual employees voting on an agreement which has absolutely nothing to do with a workplace in Victoria. If that can happen under the Fair Work Act, there's something seriously wrong.
Indeed, and isn't that another word in the English language that has been destroyed, the word fair?
Oh,
hey? Disgraceful.
Oh dear. Never mind, but we should mention that there is lots of things happening under the Fair Work Act which are inappropriate, and one of those, we're moving on, is Esso, our good friends owned by Exxon, the multinational American oil and gas company, who have decided down at Longford, as we mentioned last week, to require police checks. Now, these blokes have been on the job for over 2 years, doing all the construction, and now for national security reasons, and let's be fair, there could be in a big petrochemical plant some issues of danger to the community. But I would have thought if you were a terrorist or you were someone who were out to sabotage the thing, you'd do it back at the stage where you're building it, not at the stage where you're commissioning it, where everything is in place. But never mind, our good friends Esso did attend the Fair Work Commission last week, along with CBI, who have it in their contract, not that they told the unions, but they have it in their contract, that anyone going in to commission the plant at the end of the job will be required to have a clean police record. And let's just say nobody in this world, or at least very few, have got an absolutely clean police record, because a police record is not just convictions, it's also charges that may have been withdrawn. There is also records of people being interviewed. All that stuff is on a record, which is now available through these specialist, shall we say, agents of the Australian Crime Commission who are out there in the commercial world selling this information to people.
Well, you know, if I wasn't being a little bit suspicious, I reckon that's just a really convenient way to exclude unionised labour from the commissioning process.
Indeed, right when the agreement is up for renewal.
Oh, well, how convenient is that? So we can we're using that bullshit excuse to get rid of blokes. Unbelievable.
Indeed. But the situation down at Longford is that the delegates and the organisers have tried to hold the line, and now there's a little bit of backpedalling, certainly on the part of CBI. Our good friends from ESSO, of course, deny all responsibility and told the Commission basically it's nothing to do with you and you can't do anything to us because they're not our employees. There's another problem with the Fair Work Act, isn't it? You can make a decision about someone's employment and you're not the actual employer, though you're telling you're the actual employer what they will do, and there again, your employment is terminated, your employment is in jeopardy. Now, if that's the Fair Work Act, there's a few problems.
There you go.
Anyway, let's move on to the next Fair Work Act problem. I'm on a roll here.
Yes.
Thanks, Julia. You're giving me plenty to talk about.
Like I said, the word fair. I don't know.
Kane Construction's another favourite.
Oh, absolute favourite there. From the blue ridge set. Kane's, well, where do we start, Warren? Where do we start?
Well, we start with the fact that they refused to issue the notice of reps' rights, which is a requirement under the Fair Work Act, which drags the whole negotiating process out by an enormous amount of time. They were negotiating. Discussions had taken place within the terms of the Fair Work Act. And then, of course, they don't issue the notices. We have to take them to the Fair Work Commission weeks and weeks and weeks after the event. We finally get an order saying they've got to issue the notice and they've got to start negotiating. So they couldn't negotiate straight away, so that took another 2 weeks. Then there was negotiations, and then they go, well, we don't like this and we don't like that, but we can't quantify what we do like. We can't tell you alternate clauses. We can't really do anything very much except say we don't like things without even going into the reasons. And they talk about productivity. They talk about the code, even though the 14 code doesn't exist. They want to talk about plenty of that. But at the end of it all, we are now 4 weeks down the track from when the Commission said we're going to start negotiating. And basically things have gone nowhere. So the next course of action, of course, is an application for protected action.
Oh, please.
So now
please.
We'll go through a process whereby we'll now spend X number of weeks getting a ballot for protected action. That will have to be passed by the employees. That will then have to be ticked off by the Fair Work Commission, another fair example of fairness. And at the end of it all, we might actually force them to sit down and actually negotiate properly. So, folks, if you reckon we've got a problem with the Fair Work Act, you're right. And I think any employee, whatever protections were put into that act by the Gillard government, they are outweighed markedly by all the disadvantages and the disincentives to people to actually just get on with their affairs, often in a situation where it could all be over and done with in a very short time. But if you can save a few bucks, I think that's what Canes are doing.
Oh, and they're trying to save more bucks than signing the EBA. The number of their jobs at the moment, they're telling the boys on the job, listen, we're not supplying amenities on this job. We're just going to use the amenities that are provided by the school or the university or the hospital. So the construction workers starting to share with the general public, and I think that's how they think they're going to save a couple of bucks, Warren, by not having to hire a couple of dunnies. I mean, that's ordinary.
Oh, Canes have got more portable dunny units up at Shepparton where they keep their gear than any company I know. But anyway, I suppose you've got to pay to have it cleaned, and that's a problem.
That's right.
Righto, we might cut to a track, and just a little reminder, we work to live, not live to work.
This is a song about how come I love my suburb. It's called Live, Work and Play. Yeah, I'm a genius, but I see the light behind a minute's life. Give me sight, just outside, watch to see feet by two. But I'm still waiting for a
Concrete gangs, here to stay. You don't fight, you lose. Here to struggle, here to win.
Whatever it takes, whatever the stakes.
I gotta live, work and play. I watch your TV every day. I say I'm saving my pay. I gotta live, work and play. Thanks.
There you go, the sports. And live, work and play. And for all the boys who played on Thursday, I hope you fronted on Friday because you weren't probably going to get a start on Saturday.
Well, that's the golden rule, isn't it?
Yep, got a front on Friday.
You got a front.
Anyway, they probably all needed to have a little bit of time away from work.
Bit of a blowout.
Yeah, just to take the stress off because there's been plenty of stress this year. It's been a miserable winter and people have still been out there pushing jobs. You look around the city at the moment, you look in some of the suburban jobs too, it has been a pretty productive year.
Absolutely.
There's some jobs going up. Jobs that only work 5 days a week are still going up at a rate of knots.
Indeed.
So, folks, hope you enjoyed it and don't forget, we work to live, not live to work. Righto, Colin, there's a few people who are being very unchristian, and one of those is a major company in Australia, Macaleese Transport, who own a whole lot of other companies, and their demise is affecting our members.
Correct. Macaleese Transport from Mackay up in Mango Munchin country. They've decided to put their crane hire company in Victoria into administration. Walter Wright, otherwise known as National Cranes, otherwise known as High Rig. So that really just says it all, just there, doesn't it? Yeah. Really. But yes, they had a vote a couple of weeks ago, the shareholders, and they couldn't decide whether they were going to close the doors or keep going. So they've decided to keep going with a third-party administrator who's now running the business. The boys aren't sure about their entitlements because, lo and behold, they got their pay slips the other day and all annual leave entitlements and any other entitlements they had were zeroed out. So they opened their pay slips and all of a sudden it's 0, 0, 0. And then another little letter saying you have to let us know, let the administrator know what you think the company owes you. Well, a good start would be put the stuff back that was on the pay slips last week. That'd be a good start. Yep. But that's not going to bode well for the business because it is EBA time. Obviously, yep. It's there's problems, and let's just we'll keep an eye on that one very closely, and we'll make sure all the boys get all their entitlements.
It's a constant problem. This year, particularly in January, there was a big spike in the number of companies who discontinued, shall we say, who dropped off the radar as far as being contributors to Incolink and so on. And you think to yourself, well, the overall numbers of people covered by the schemes has not gone down, but the number of employers has gone down. And, of course, what you've got is people discontinuing and then re-emerging. And our good friends Coconuts is one of those, and they owe $109,000 to Cbus. They thought, get rid of one company, you start another company and your liabilities have disappeared. Sorry, transmission of business. So now we've got down to the very difficult stage of working out how they're going to pay off the money they owe.
Indeed, and they're getting some very poor advice from wherever they're getting it from, because if you're going to Phoenix your company, it's not like just forget about all those debts and we'll start again. As Warren has just said, it is a transmission of business. So any debts you have with the old company carry over to the new one, correct?
Correct, and there is certainly an attitude afoot around the country to basically use the letter of the law to save yourself a few bucks and stuff the employees. Mm-hmm. And so if there is going to be a Senate inquiry, it better be a good one, because there's a lot of stuff going on, which is everyone trying things on where they've never gone before.
Well, it is an issue in our industry, a huge issue, and there's tons of meat on the bone there. So if they can't get a decent Senate inquiry out of that, they'll never be able to do anything.
And how much tax is being avoided to allow people to increase their profits, because all the money seems to disappear before the company actually goes into liquidation. So there's no assets, and next minute all the liabilities to the tax office have disappeared.
Yep, and so what's that? No GST? Gone.
No income tax, group payments, all that stuff. Anyway, can't be all bad news.
No.
Cheerio to Ronan Pringle. Cheerio, Ronan.
Cheerio. Ta-da for now. Ronan, you've had the ABCC on speed dial for a long time. You've never forgotten their number, but they forgot you, and you are now forgotten. And I'm sure you will Phoenix somewhere too, somewhere, but you will only go downhill.
Indeed.
As others have. There is plenty more. It's been a big year for these construction managers. There must have been some sort of music going on, because they've been playing musical chairs.
They've been playing musical chairs. Unfortunately, you don't see the end of them when you hope.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. My favourite union function of the year, I have to say, because I love that early morning beer buzz when I pop out into Collins Street at about 11:30, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? The grand final breakfast.
It's on again this year.
It's on again this year. Don't know who's going to be in the grand final. I'm not going the early crowd. My team's certainly not going to be there. But get your tickets now. Tables are already going pretty fast. It is a fantastic function. It is a fundraiser, and always a great morning. AFL stars. It's just one of those mornings you get up, you get dressed up, and you come into town. You have a beautiful breakfast, couple of drinks with good company, and always a great show. Mike Brady always in attendance up there, Kazali. One day in October. The grand final is actually on the 1st of October this year, so it'll be the one day in October. He'll sing that song again. Always a great morning, so get in and get your ticket fast.
Indeed. Now, scallywags. Well, CUB get nominated again. SO, I think they deserve a nomination. Canes,
yes.
Little mob that you've got out in Burwood.
Yeah, Osco out there building, those little apartment builders. They don't think they have to have handrails or kickers or any of the basic stuff that protects our members from, slips, trips and falls. They are, those three things are the number one killer and maimer of our employees, and simple stuff like that is just got to be a no-brainer. But unfortunately, some of those jobs, it doesn't even come into play. It's just production. So, Osco, you are one of our scallywags of the week.
And ADCO. Been telling some of their subcontractors, don't sign an EBA wait, and when they indicate they want to sign the EBA, they're getting told, now we're telling you, don't do it. And last but not least, for the Sookie Lalas, our mates at Coconuts, boys and girls, cheerio to our good friend Roxanne. Listen, kids, you're in trouble paying it off over 22 months when you might not last another 2 months is not the acceptable way of doing business. But they're going to get the Sookie Lala because it wasn't their fault. They paid for advice, blah, 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 blah. But who are we going for Scallywag?
Ooh, gee, they're all good contenders. I think we've got to go with Cub, though, don't we? We've got to go with CUB. Yeah. Spilt 370,000 litres of booze this week too. Lack of maintenance there at the brewery. Flooded the underground sort of caverns that run around under the brewery. Pipe burst, no maintenance, 370,000 litres. God.
Jesus, we could have just taken the boys down there after the rally. They would have cleaned it up.
Give them a straw each. Yeah.
Anyway, it would have been a big day down at CUB because you've won Scallywag of the Week and Coconuts have won Sookie Lala. So we're going to go out in the same old way. Dare to struggle.
Dare to win.
If you don't fight,
you lose.
Good morning from the Concrete Gang, and we're going to go out with a little bit of our good friend Peter Tosh. Get up, stand up.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.